This is Matthew Cratter from Trader University, and today I want to talk about Bitcoin's weirdest bull market. Not the bull market of 2021, but the bull market of 2013. This was very unusual because we had two separate peaks. There was one that was very early in the bull market, and then a very sharp crash, a lot of sideways motion, and then we got a much higher peak of this bull market. Now, this all followed the November 2012 halving, which happened about here. And a lot of people don't remember this because people just weren't aware of Bitcoin back then. The halving happened on November 28th, 2012, when Bitcoin was trading for just about $12 per Bitcoin. In just 5 or so months, it proceeded to go from $12 to $259. That was the high. About 5 months after the halving, you had this first peak. Then you had a drawdown in just 2 days. Obviously, Bitcoin was much less liquid back then and was even more volatile than it is now. Volatility has been moving down over time as adoption increases. But you basically had a 2-day crash here where Bitcoin went down almost 83%. In the current bull market, we've gone down about 50% to put that in perspective. So from 12 to 259, back down to 45. Of course, if you had bought at the halving, you were still up about 3 or 4x at that point. Now, after this 2-day crash, we got 6 months of sideways movement. We can see where Bitcoin really just went nowhere here. And then 6 months later, roughly, Bitcoin finally surpassed its all-time high of 259, and it started hitting new highs in November of 2013. So it was approximately 1 year after the halving. And from there, in just a matter of 24 days, it went up to 1,119.80. So that's about 25x from the low of 45. And so this is, a lot of people I think are applying the template of 2017 to this bull market. But here's an example that bull markets can look very different. And you can also make up a lot of time in a very short period of time. Obviously, Bitcoin is less volatile now. I don't expect it to go up 25x in just 24 days. It's certainly possible Bitcoin can do whatever it wants. But it could certainly, a lot of people are saying, oh, how could Bitcoin get to 200,000 by the end of this year, which is my price target for the end of 2021. Well, that's that's less than 10x up from where we are now. And so I think it's something that can still easily be done. And I'm going to show you why in a moment. In the meantime, if you've been enjoying this video so far, I'd ask you to hit that subscribe and like button and also share this video with a few friends. So while some of you have been selling your Bitcoin and panicking, we need to remember who has been buying and why this bull market is still intact. We have MicroStrategy, of course, and Michael Saylor. They just recently bought another 13,000 Bitcoin, and they now own more than 105,000 Bitcoin. Their dollar cost average is 2.74 billion, and their average purchase price is about $26,000 per Bitcoin. So MicroStrategy continues to accumulate Bitcoin with every spare penny that they have. Likewise, we just heard some news from the Israel Investment Fund Group that is based in Tel Aviv and Beverly Hills, that this was a tweet on July 9th stating that they've invested $2.3 billion in Bitcoin. I'm surprised this didn't get more news coverage, but this is certainly significant. Very smart people buying Bitcoin. And also a lot of retail traders have obviously been buying it, but we're looking at really the big whales and corporations and investment funds here to see what the smart money's been doing. They're not always the smart money, but when someone starts accumulating 2.5 billion Bitcoin out of nowhere, $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin out of nowhere, people really need to stand up and take notice. Finally, this was a very strange news story as well, that the Kazakhstan owned investment firm just purchased $500 million worth of Bitcoin. This as of July 9th. This is quite interesting, especially Bitcoin definitely makes sense for countries with less stable local currencies. And here's an example of a very forward-looking state purchasing it. You could imagine if the U.S. government, instead of wasting money on so many things and continuing to print money and buying treasury bonds, imagine if instead it used the printing presses to accumulate Bitcoin. This would be a very smart thing to do. Finally, just to give us some perspective on how Bitcoin has been moving on the price of Bitcoin every day since it really started being priced on July 11th, which was yesterday. We can see here that Bitcoin sometimes is lower a year later, but is almost always higher a year later, especially in these strong bull markets. So this really puts into perspective that we're still so much higher here than we were obviously a year ago or 2 years ago. It can feel difficult in these deep drawdowns, and Bitcoin really has suffered an extremely violent shock to the system, and something that's really never happened in a bull market, where the hash rate, which had been concentrated for the most part in China, all of a sudden is being unplugged and moved, and it's been a very violent stress to the system. But fortunately, Bitcoin itself has handled it quite well. Some of the selling that we've been seeing may be coming from Chinese miners as they need to liquidate some of their Bitcoin holdings in order to create some fiat cash to use to move their miners to neighboring countries from China or even to the US and Canada. And this will be a slow healing process. We can see here that even in 2013, there's a very long, boring period of time, much of it over the summer. The summer tends to be the doldrums in the stock market, and it certainly was for Bitcoin in the summer of 2013. And then a really violent rally higher in the fourth quarter. Who knows what will happen this year? We may see an extension of this bull market, and the peak, rather than happening about a year and a half after the halving, which would put us in roughly December of 2021, maybe the peak is a little bit later because of this delay caused by the China shutdown of the Bitcoin miners and the crackdown on banks holding cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in China, etc. So we may see an elongation of this bull market, but I'm still quite confident that the bull market is intact. If you take the long-term view here, you will be still very happy to hold Bitcoin. And if you're selling to some very smart people like Michael Saylor and the Israel Investment Fund Group. So make sure you understand Bitcoin and understand that it can be quite volatile. But if you track things like increasing adoption, and you also have the perspective of previous market cycles, it can help you to weather the volatility. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.